they created cultural Marxism. Lukacs and Munzenberg ideas inspired the Frankfurt School, which is the School of Social Research in Frankfurt, Germany. How many have heard of that? Few people. Okay. It was in the 1930s, and they had to relocate to Columbia Teachers College because Hitler had taken power. These guys were all communists. Most of them were Jewish, so they had 2 strikes against them. They had to flee, and they were relocated in New York through a program called the International Institute for Education, and it was run by Edward R. Murrow. Remember him? Yeah. CBS anchor? Yeah. Communist. And the Frankfurt School, it created, remember what I said about criticizing everything existing? Frankfurt School created something called critical theory. And you know, you don't need to take pictures. I'm going to make this PowerPoint available when it's done. Look what it says here. John Dewey sponsored gave the Institute a lock on Teachers College, foremost educational institution in the U.S. Graduates filled more than 60% of all teaching and educational administrative posts in the country. So this was in the 1930s, folks. And this was critical theory. Creation of racism offenses. Oh, there you go. Continual change to create confusion, teaching sex and homosexuality to children. Immigration to destroy identity, etc. You can read it. The bottom line, authoritarian personality. That's a book written by some of the Frankfurt School intellectuals. It was published in 1950, and it said that if you believed in rule of law, Constitution, all the things that we believe in, you by definition had an authoritarian personality, and you were therefore by definition racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, everything phobic. And you didn't even know it. 1950. That gets taught in our psychology classes these days. Authoritarian. That's where they come up with the idea. You've heard some people say, oh yeah, conservatives are crazy, I know. There's been studies. The authoritarian personality, all made up by the communists. And look, for 10 years they operated in pre-war Germany. You remember the Cabaret, the movie Cabaret, with Liza Minnelli? And she's dancing up there on the stage with all the transvestites? That was pre-war Germany. It was the most degenerate, corrupt society in all of Europe, and all of the world, frankly. Now, why is that important? And this is where the idea of strategy comes back in. Remember I said it's all a military strategy? Why is it important to corrupt the culture? Why is it important to get people to squander their time in these frivolous and, I would say, sick pursuits? Well, what's the military advantage to that? Who of them are paying attention to anything any further than their navel? They're all totally self-absorbed, totally self-centered. They couldn't see a freight train coming if it was right down the tracks. That's the goal. Distract and corrupt us so we're preoccupied with our selfish concerns, our pursuits, and we don't pay attention. That's what's happened in this country today. Yes, it has. But it's really come to a head now. One example. And look at this, the social emotional learning. This thing is sick. If you guys have this in Texas, you better put the brakes on. And then they have this. Sexuality Information and Education Council of the United States, SIECUS. And look what it says here. It's a means of building a foundation for a long-term cultural shift Seekers commits to working to dismantle the system of power and oppression. This is what they're teaching in public school. We really got to get on our game. And the abortion movement, I have argued this for years, and I finally saw somebody that agrees with me, this David Carlin guy. The real goal of abortion wasn't to enhance women's rights. The real goal of abortion was to drive a stake into the heart of Christianity. Because what more awful thing could you do to yourself than kill your own child?
Amen.
It's horrific. And, well, we're getting there. I don't know if we'll get there in time. If you want me to shut up, I'll shut up. I got a lot of stuff to do. We apparently only have 5 minutes.
Keep going.
Another strategy that we're all familiar with now is this, well, I could say it all night, where a bunch of racists, sexists, bigots, homophobes, xenophobes, etc. name your phobe. Where did that come from? Well, look what Lenin said. We must be ready to employ trickery, deceit, law-breaking, withholding, and concealing truth. That's all they ever do. We can and must write in a language which sows among the masses hate, revulsion, and scorn toward those who disagree with us. Right? We disagree with that. So the goal is to attack. And look at what they said. In the 1940s, the Soviet Union sent out memos to the communist parties of the world telling them continually discredit and degrade our critics, label them fascist or Nazi or anti-Semite. Doesn't that sound familiar? Yeah. We're all a bunch of Nazis, right? Constantly associate those who oppose us with those that already have a bad smell, and it will become truth in the public mind if repeated enough. That's the strategy, right? And it's 70, 80 years old. Now this guy really brought it home though. Herbert Marcuse was a Frankfurt School communist, younger than the other ones. He's the father of the New Left. He's also been called the father of the sexual revolution, credited with the slogan, "Make love, not war," although he hated being associated with that. But he created something called partisan tolerance. Partisan tolerance is tolerance only of left ideas and complete intolerance of ideas from the right. And he said, look at this, he says, intolerance even towards thought, opinion, and word. So, if there's any mystery about how these people so shockingly, willingly, can, without even thinking twice, furiously work to deny us our First Amendment rights. That's it. It's partisan tolerance. And he wrote a very long article about it. It's part of a book. Got famous among the left, just like Cloward-Piven did. And then, of course, Saul Alinsky took all this information and systematized it into Rules for Radicals, which is like, a manual for how to implement all this stuff. That's another quote by Marcuse we don't really have time for. But now here's where it gets interesting. Because the Southern Poverty Law Center is the organization that is most effective at vilifying people, right? They have the hate list, the hate watch, the hate map. Family Research Council was attacked by Floyd Corkins, a homosexual activist who wanted to kill all of them, but he was stopped by the security guard, fortunately. And he said he was inspired by the SPLC hate list. Family Research Council, Christian organization. They don't believe homosexuality is right. We're entitled to that belief. It's in the Bible, crying out loud. That doesn't mean I would accept you as a friend if you were homosexual. I would pray for you. But there's no hate there. Marcuse worked with the co-founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center. Julian Bond, another communist. And that's where the Southern Poverty Law Center got its whole hate mantra, its whole hate idea. And I call it the institution of manufactured hate. Anyway, so that's where that comes up to the present. Communists inspired from the beginning. SPLC inspires hatred towards normal Americans. And now we have white privilege. This was created by Noel Ignatieff, who was an SDS radical. He was a member of the Provisional Organizing Committee of the Communist Party USA, which is the most radical Stalinist branch of the Communist Party USA. He was also a Harvard professor. And he wrote a pamphlet with someone else, a guy named Ted Stevens, called White Skin Privilege in 1967 or 68. And then he founded a magazine called Race Trader, the Journal of New Abolitionism, where they were going to abolish the white race. And read what he says there. We intend to keep bashing the dead white males and the live ones, and the females too, until the social construct known as the white race is destroyed. Not deconstructed, but destroyed. Now students in universities are required to go to white privilege conferences. And then, of course, we've got Islamophobia. Here's a list of Islamophobia terms put together by a member of the Council on Islamic American Relations. If you talk about violent jihad or Islamic terrorism, you're an Islamophobe. In other words, if you say anything negative about Islam or any of the things that they do, you're an Islamophobe. So, you know, either you shut up or you're an Islamophobe, basically. That's all there is to it. And here's a little training manual that a Muslim did for teachers so that they wouldn't be Islamophobes. But really, I don't want to spend any more time on it. We got, and that in turn comes from the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, which came up with that idea in the 1990s. There's a lot more, folks, but I think that I should probably stop.